A good way of quickly creating toolpath is to use the machine feature command, where EDGECAM uses its default strategies to produce CAM instructions, as the command name intimates a solid feature is required, otherwise we cannot use this function. In this example, I wish to profile machine the centre pocket shape, thus I'll ask EDGECAM to feature find for pockets. I'm not sure what type of pocket shape I'm going to create, so I'm going to err on the side of caution and pick all possible pockets combinations. A 3D pocket is created, but alas, this clearly isn't the shape that I had in mind. Thus I cannot create a feature and therefore cannot use the machine feature command to manufacture the shape. I'll use Shift Delete to completely remove the unwanted feature. This bypasses the recycle bin. Luckily, we do not have to abandon using our automation command. We can create the feature by using the Wireframe Mill feature function. Within the dialog, we can accurately describe the characteristics of the mill feature. We of course need wireframe entities to create this type of feature. It's too slow and cumbersome to manually create them, so I'll head over to the Features tab, Geometry function, and create a silhouette. I picked the solid body, and now you'll notice that a continuous entity has been created, accurately representing the inner profile. So with our new profile, I can use the wireframe mill feature command. I fill in the parameters for the dialog, in this case the level and the depth at -12. Don't need to fill in any of the other parameter. Select the XY profile, and as I've got my render feature command on, straight away we can identify the feature. If I zoom in closer, you'll actually notice on the legs of the profile we've got our slot center line. This indicates that the slot cycle can be used if we wish to do so later on. So we can now head on over to manufacturing, into the machine feature command. I've already selected the tool. I only want to finish, which will give me the profile cycle, and I select our new mill feature, which was created from wireframe, and now I have a successful toolpath. I just simply wish to skim finish the inside of the profile. And just check that out inside the machine simulator too. It all looks perfect. Because we noticed that the new feature indicated center lines, this means that the slot milling cycle can be used. I've set the cycle to solid, I've set my association on, and now I can just simply pick the new feature, and those areas with the center line marker, you'll now notice the cycle can now execute just in those particular areas. So it's not just automation commands can work with the new feature, we can obviously use manual cycles as well. A further bonus is that we can also update the geometry that belongs to the new feature. Here we see the original continuous. It comprises of many entities. We explode this continuous and this returns it back to those original entities, in other words back to the lines and arcs. And now what I wish to do as an example is just convert the sharp corners into a fillet blend, and now what I can simply do is re-expose the manual feature, and we can edit that feature and ask the feature to now adopt the new shape. So we move along to the window, we open up the pocket, select coord, and now rechain the new profile shape, and you'll notice that the feature changes, and so too will the machining commands. When machining models, there are many examples where, to create the perfect toolpath, you can use geometry. In this example, I wish to make a single profile pass around the outside of the model. Theoretically, I should be able to achieve this by setting the profiling cycle to solid. After all, this is a solid model. I have picked the model, But the toolpath not only goes around the outside but goes everywhere. I pick the whole of the model, so of course the toolpath is obliged to cover all of the shape. Maybe creating a boss feature and using this with the cycle will work. To play safe, I've also requested contour, bosses and profiles. But unfortunately, this will not work. So do I leave the outside unmachined? This is a great example when normal plane geometry aids machining, and this is why you find wireframe in most of the cycles. A further issue is the stock shape. EDGECAM automatically creates stock from the model. We are not seeing the correct stock in our simulator. In this instance, the stock is a profile shape 2 mm larger than the part. If I open the Preferences command, under the Solids tab, I can see the reason why the stock adopted the same shape as the model. I will now disable Auto Stock from Model. From the Features window, I'll also delete the stock and the duplicated model. We need to create our own stock. Under the Geometry command, you'll find Stock and Fixture command, and here we can create various extra stock shapes. Specifically in our case, I need to create profile stock. Whilst in the dialog, I can determine layer and also the colour. Dismiss the dialog and the command request points on the profile. In other words, stipulate the profile geometry. And that's where we have a further challenge, how to create the correct shape. We don't expect the user to physically draw a shape. We use EDGECAM's Geometry from Solid command. I've selected Silhouette and will now pick the solid model. Remember to use Layer Control to separate the various entities. The result is a continuous entity marking the exact shape of the model. Because the stock profile needs to be 2 mm bigger than the model, we can reach out to the Offset command and create a second profile. This profile is the geometry we will use in conjunction with the Stock Fixture command. With this new shape, I can now launch the Stock Fixture command. I set Shape to Profile and the depth is 40 mm. I double click Chain, one single entity, and EDGECAM will select the whole profile. This is our simulator stock and accurately represents the machining setup. It wasn't necessary to use a second model designating it as stock. I'll create the profiling cycle, model type set to wireframe, allowing me to pick the continuous. Because I cannot remember the thickness of our model, a handy tip here is to set depth to pick. This will force EDGECAM to request an entity whilst executing the cycle. All other settings are fine, so I can OK the dialog. The profile, I pick the continuous. Point to specify depth, I select any vertex entity on the base of the model, and this will return the value into the Z depth setting of the cycle. The toolpath looks satisfactory, a single skim around the outside of the model, and we can accurately assess it in the simulator as we now have the correct stock shape.